The very first DungeonFog mapping it out Discord stage interaction. Now, why have we switched from Discord to YouTube? Well, we haven't. We've just switched being live to Discord rather than on YouTube. This video will be available on YouTube within the next couple of days in case you have missed it or if you want to go back and look or follow along. We're changing formats as well. It's 2024 and it's time for us to update things a little bit. So it's still going to be myself running the show, or at least kind of guiding it, asking your questions to Till, our wonderful CEO and head of DungeonFog, and making sure that things just generally get answered and that they get on with it. However, what's going to be different this year as opposed to last year and the previous years of mapping it out is that we're going to be doing more demonstration stuff in the actual stream itself. So we're going to set ourselves mini tasks, if you will, to actually go through and use the software as it should be used based on the current build that is available to everybody or that will be coming out in subsequent patches. So tonight we are going to be looking at the roadmap ahead for the battlemap editor and for DEIOS, as well as starting to look at some of the cool new features that DEIOS's City Map Maker is added. Now, if you haven't seen the latest City Map Maker stuff, I guarantee you are going to be blown away. You really, really are. Till was showing me some of the stuff that they can now add in at the moment. I cannot wait for the update, which is also going to be announced as to when that's going to be coming out roughly in the near future. So lots to get through. But remember, this is about you being able to ask your questions in an open forum where we can then discuss them with Till and get perspective exactly what's going on. So if you are going to ask a question, please, there is the chat function, which Discord has got. And that, I believe, is the bubble, the speech bubble in the... I have no idea where it is. This is the first time I'm ever doing a Discord live stage. Same for Till as well. So if you click on that little speech bubble, it'll open up the chat and you can actually type in your chat there. Raising hands and that kind of thing. We're not yet there technologically, so just ask questions. And if you do have questions rather than just commentary, please write the word question in caps in front of it so that I can see it and then I can propose it to Till and get his answers for that. Okay, now we are also learning. So if you have any advice, if you have any tips, if this is something that you attend regularly, you go to Discord stage and you're like, hey, why didn't you guys have a 10-minute countdown or a 5-minute countdown? Or why did you not have a this or a that or the next thing? Let us know. We can only improve if you help educate us on what needs to happen. I think that's pretty much where we are at the moment. Just letting some other folks jump in or out depending on where they happen to be. Lovely to see so many familiar names joining us again this evening. And I think let's bring in Till.
Hi.
Hello, Till. Welcome to the Discord stage. Does it feel any different from the YouTube live stage?
It does, because now I am pressing all the buttons and I'm switching around everything. So it's a bit more than just leaning back and answering questions and showing stuff. We will see. Yeah, the Copper said there might be some kind of feedback, audio feedback. We had that on testing sometimes. If you hear some buzzing on the audio, I'm not sure. It's wherever it comes from. I'm not certain. Let us know if it is a constant thing. It's not that bad. Great, thank you very much.
It does seem to be a Discord thing, by the way.
Yeah, Discord stage, very interesting thing. So the reason why I proposed the idea to try Discord stages because we have grown now quite a big Discord community with almost 8,000 people on our Discord server, and doing mapping it out, doing all the prep work for the show and everything. It feels rewarding if you have an audience that is actually interacting with you. And over the last year, we saw that our what's it called? Twitch. Our Twitch channel did not get that much of an audience. So we said, why don't we bring it closer to the people who are on our server and who are actually interested in that thing instead of trying to do something on Twitch. However, the VOD of what we're doing tonight will be, I did not forget to press the record button, will be made available on YouTube. And we might switch things around this year a little bit and experiment with stuff, because if we see that the feedback is not great on the Discord event, we might go to YouTube instead of Twitch. We don't know. The general idea is we want to keep our mapping it out, our dev talks, but we want to kind of, switch things around, change things up in the sense of making it more entertaining, making it more interesting, and of course for us, easier to produce.
As I said, we're going to be doing more demonstrations, and so tonight we're going to be doing a very basic demonstration of the city map maker. Some really cool stuff. We're going to be looking at water effects that are going to be added in, some really interesting ways of making water look really cool in the maps. So lots of hands-on, except before we do that, Till, we wanted to look at the roadmap a little bit, so we have an idea of what 2024 is going to look like. So since you're driving now, this is an attempt, by the way, folks, so that you can see better quality of the software in action, because it's coming direct from the studio in Vienna rather than coming all the way from me. So Till, let's talk about what's coming up in the future. What are we expecting to see? Can we go to
yes.
The first
Okay, so
slide?
very interesting. I have to switch. There you go. I think I made it right. Okay. We traditionally at the beginning of the year we're doing a roadmap where we hash out what is going to happen here at DungeonFog and what are we going to do. Now, over the course of probably last year, well, with joining the asset manager and with DEIOS and so on and so forth, there are a couple of projects that are kind of all coming together this year, and I'm super excited about this. Sorry, apologies.
Not that button.
Yeah, not that button. Yeah, right. So just before we go there, quickly, a reminder that one thing that we're switching around this year is mapping it out will be not on a Tuesday, last Tuesday of the month. It will be on a Wednesday, last Wednesday of the month. Reason for that is that I would very much love to have Guy stay as a host and a moderator. And you weren't able to do Tuesdays this year. So we said, okay, let's switch to a Wednesday. This tonight is our first testing with Discord Stage. Your feedback will be very much appreciated. And our new format will be less panel, more demo, which probably is not going so much for tonight because there's still some stuff that I have to cover. But moving on in the future, we will do much more demoing and map making together with all the various pieces that are in the play. Right, so now we have the roadmap. Right, and we're kind of covering up some things, but that's fine. So when you look at it from a company perspective, we have several teams working on different things. And if we do our jobs this year, right, all those things will kind of funnel together and kind of influence each other. So starting at the top, Andy and his team is working on the, currently is working on the asset manager. We wanted to have it finished last year, but there was, especially when we wanted to have it right when it comes to the connection between working on the battle map editor and changing things or tagging things in the asset manager and the exchange between those two systems. So that took longer than expected. So we said, okay, Mid-February to end February, we actually want to be finished with the asset manager, and then we will make a big powwow and make it available live. There is also going to be some stuff happening soon that is related to the asset manager go live. We will talk about it once we're ready. Just keep an eye out for Discord announcements, our news, and so on and so forth. Followed by the asset manager is then there were two things left over from last year that we definitely want to do, and that we want to get off the table before we start with the big V6 development block. And that is large language models integration. So we want to use ChatGPT to generate nodes for rooms or maps. So we want to kind of use this to infuse our map information into ChatGPT or the likes to then get a room description or a prompt or read aloud out of it. Prototyping is already done. We've run some internal tests. It works fine. It just needs to be implemented. So that's not a big one. It's just on the to-do list for us. And the Sirenscape integration, we've already talked about this last year when we did our anniversary announcements, is also coming, which allows you to link your maps with Sirenscape soundscapes and kind of combine them, which I think is also really neat. And then Andy will switch over, and together with Sylvie and probably Lars to some degree, they will start working on the V6 battlemap editor. And that is a big thing. So this is eating up most of Andy's time throughout the year because it's just everything that went into version 5 now needs to be kind of ported into version 6, and there's a completely different understructure beneath it. So that's definitely going to take us into the next year. Right. Then we have system updates. Now, system updates is something that we wanted to do once we're ready for it, and which we are now. And that is, for those of you who have a DEIOS account, you might have noticed that you have a DEIOS account and you have a DungeonFog account, but they're not related by any means. And that was to get DEIOS rolling in the beginning, but now we're at a point where it makes sense to actually unify all those accounts and also use a better authentication system for that. That then allows two-factor authentication. That involves a lot of data migration. That's why we've kind of allocated more than a quarter to it, because it's like our user data needs to be secured, protected, and we really shouldn't mess with it. So we have to do this very carefully, and we've allocated almost a quarter to it, more than a quarter to it, to make this work. Once that is done, the next thing is we also want to port our map databases from where we store them right now, which is currently on the German server, into the cloud, into AWS, which makes map loading much faster, much more reliable. And also is needed because with the system account unification and the asset manager stuff that we're planning for later this year, we want to have all the databases kind of in the same architecture. Right, and then there's just website optimizations. We know that our website is now, for I think it has been 3 years before since we did the last revamp for it. So there's going to be something there too. Once the asset manager launches, there's a big one coming. I think this is going to be super exciting. And that is we're going to add all the DEIOS assets into the asset manager so you can manage all your DEIOS assets in there, which also means if you look down to the DEIOS line, which also means that goodbye, guy. It's fine. I think everyone's seen it. Please come back, guy. I feel terrible. Yeah. Getting the assets then into DEIOS means DEIOS then needs to have proper authentication, user accounts, and assets stored to the new user, which will then all pipe into the fact that you have all the assets available through the asset manager in DEIOS, which I think is really nice. I'm very much looking forward to it. So DEIOS is happening. The first quarter is city map polishing. We're going to see the first bits and pieces of that tonight. Then we're doing asset service. And then we will take all the learnings from last year from the world map editor, from the city map editor, and we will put them into play for the world map editor, which will then finally finish city and world map editing. Now I need to move myself a little bit. And as you can see, for the last quarter of this year, we're planning to have the world map editor and the city map editor both ready for beta. There are currently some concepts on how we can actually work with the, how we can bring the version 5 battlemap editor closer to DEIOS. I'm not going to talk about this right now. We're going to talk about this once we're ready for it. But generally speaking, once we have a unified account, you have one DungeonFog account that you can log in, which means that you have access to your DEIOS software if you have your DEIOS software, and to the battlemap editor as well. And we're bringing all of those things together this year, and we will find a good way to make it in a way that everyone can use all the battlemap editors, all the map editors, even though they might not be fully integrated into one desktop application this year.
Makes absolute sense. Absolute sense. So, in terms of, I see some folks are watching on mobile, can't get a full screen landscape of just this video. You do an update, a written update of all of this content on the website. So if you are wanting to look at these roadmaps in closer detail, you'll be able to find those on the website. And then Till, I think this is a lot of information to look at. Very exciting stuff. Quarter 1, quarter 2. I mean, especially quarter 1. There's so much exciting stuff happening that there's a lot going on.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like when we sat together and we tried to work on not only for this year but general on where are we heading, what is happening in the DungeonFog sphere, we realized that with the with over, I think we're getting to 10,000 assets in the asset manager. So with all the assets that we've produced, with the asset manager that is going to be a central hub to manage and organize your assets, with the battlemap editor that is now in version 5 and has been in version 5 now for 3 or 4 years and is already quite a stable editor. And with all the DEIOS stuff, especially the city map maker, gave us a lot of confidence to where the road's heading with DEIOS. We actually really had to figure out how our teams can work together so that we find synergies between when are they going to finish stuff, when are they going to tackle stuff, and who needs what stuff when, so that no one's waiting for the other. And I'm not sure that we are even remotely getting close to our planning, but at least we now have a better understanding of what we want to do and how we get there. And yeah.
Okay. Copper Shield's got a question regarding assets. Is there a plan when additional assets for the content manager will be added, and in what manner?
Yes. So in terms of that, I am currently speaking to so you might have already noticed that we have the Kiora assets that have been produced throughout the Kickstarter campaign. And we have introduced those watercolor assets that we've created for the city map maker. And we are currently talking to, so Tony already said that this is not so much his forte. He doesn't want to do the city map assets. But we're talking to some other people who might be interested in doing that. So we're going to, as again, this is kind of the asset service part that we're talking about. As kind of an asset service, DungeonFog offers constantly new assets per month or on a regular basis, let's call it like that. And for this year, we want to include city map and world map assets into this asset release cycle. So how do you get them? Well, generally speaking, that is something that we are going to figure out throughout this year. But I'm fairly certain that if you have a content subscription, like if you have a DungeonFog subscription, they will be in the asset manager anyways. And for those of you who pre-ordered or backed DEIOS through Kickstarter, you're covered as well, because that was always part of the deal when you supported our Kickstarter campaign. So this is again kind of pointing toward the account unification, where we can then bring all the accounts together, whether it's a DungeonFog or a DEIOS account, and then set proper permissions there, so that everyone gets access to those assets.
A question from Lord God then is, I'm not going to address the AWS stuff because I think Lars is already doing that. Are assets moving to loading asynchronously in the battlemap editor, as that would be a huge help?
I don't want to say something wrong. I think, generally speaking, in the battlemap editor, they are to some degree already loading asynchronously. However, the reason that you have to wait some time before the battlemap editor launches is that you have to load the manifest of all the assets that are available. And because we're handing you all the assets at once, it's quite a huge manifest, and it grows and grows and grows and grows. So the manifest itself, we have to figure out a better way to do this. The assets, while you're working on it, they load asynchronously already.
Okay, perfect. I think we can move on to the next slide, Till,
yes,
because
sir.
we've still got a few more to go through, and we do say that it's more demo than panel discussion. So
we're doing our best. Well, it's the first show of the year, so people are expecting a roadmap and talk a little bit about our goals and plans. I see a question there. Is there ever going to be a way to export assets? So yes, that is actually a topic of the asset manager, because once the asset manager becomes your central hub to manage all the assets, we're actually, so this is long-term future stuff that we're talking. This is not instant asset manager release material, but the asset manager, the idea behind the asset manager is that it becomes a central hub where you can manage all the assets. And it only makes sense to have a central hub when you have kind of plug-in connections to different places. Like, for example, have a Foundry module that pulls from the asset manager. Or if, I don't know if we can make it happen, but if we find a way to plug ourselves into something like Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds Unity, then you could actually access all the assets from the asset manager through that plugin directly. Whether or not you can download those assets, like physically download the PNG file and save it and store it on your PC, that is something that has an active debate in our team at the moment, whether or not we want to do this, we want to allow this, or do we feel unsafe in terms of IP protection of the assets, especially marketplace assets or our assets. Technically, it will be possible. Do we allow it? Maybe. I do not know yet. Right.
It's a complicated one.
Next slide.
Yes.
Right. DEIOS roadmap. Okay. So talking about DEIOS specifically, people are asking, where are we? How are we moving along? What is happening? And I thought that it makes sense to break our roadmap down into more details on what is going on with the DEIOS desktop development. So if we look at the total timeline, then I would say we are we have climbed the mountain. We've reached the peak, and now we need to take the slope down to get to the goal. Because from looking back into 2023, what happened was the city map editor gave us no, I hope we don't fall. Gave us a lot of confidence in where our tools are heading. With the world map editor, it was kind of a struggle to actually get all those moving pieces together. And once we implemented them into the city map editor and we did some tweaking here, some tweaking there to optimize for the city maps, a lot of puzzle pieces fell into place, and we saw what we can do and how we can do it. So moving forward, I think that we will have, at least for this year, we will have quite a good traction on how to get the world maps working better than before. And once we are there, how do we get this? How do we get the battle maps in there? There are a few concepts that we're debating at the moment, and I'm not going to talk about that tonight. But generally speaking, 2025 is definitely going to be the battle map year. So 2024 is the world map city map year, where we hopefully have all those things wrapped up and finished. And in terms of, let's say, team expectancy, we said last year we want to have the city map editor finished, and my guys really pushed into it. Ilya and Andre did an amazing job there. And now we're just in the polishing phase, cleaning up stuff. So I'm fairly confident that we can keep our timeline for this year as well.
Fantastic. So let's see. There's a question that's come straight through. Do you have an order in which you want to take the different parts of the world map editor, especially the biomes, for example? Well, I think that speaks in the next slide, doesn't it?
Did I put it into the next slide? I think I did.
Well, it's more, this is a roadmap in broader spectrums, and I think that kind of takes us there.
It's a bit more detailed, and I'll keep in mind that you've asked about the biomes, so I'm going to address that in a second. So what you can see on this slide is, generally speaking, is what happened with our last release. That was the stability update and the lighting update for the city map editor. It also addressed a big issue that we realized once we released, that undo and redo stacks can very much populate your memory on the PC, which then cause DEIOS to slow down or even crash. That was addressed in December when we did the version 0.6.2 update, and we have seen in our telemetry that the main cause for DEIOS crashes at the moment lies in the world map editor and not the city map editor anymore. And the ratio has gone down from 20% of all launches end up crashing down to somewhere between 12 and 8%, which is still high, but a lot better. So once we have once we start with the whole world map editor transition, we will have a much more stable thing. And upcoming, where Guy is hiding so that you can actually read it, is the stuff that is coming in the next patch that we are currently cleaning up and finishing. We're going to see in the demo what that means. Enhanced water bodies, improved lighting, export styling filters, and of course, again, stability fixing. So all those things are going to happen in February when we do the next release. Whereas for 2024, for this year's goals, as you have seen in the previous roadmap, the city map fine-tuning will take us until the end of this quarter, or probably somewhere mid-March, depending on how fast we are. And you can see that most of the things that we wanted in there are already in the February patch. So enhanced water bodies is in there, improved lighting is in there. We're going to see at least a bit of a teaser today of terrain optimization. The export styling filter is already in there, and then it's just stability patches, stability patches, stability patches. And of course, if you feedback to us stuff that is that you feel needs to be addressed, feels clunky, is not working properly, is not working as expected, then that would be part of the city map fine-tuning. We're not going to abandon city maps after that, but our focus, so we have two developers, Andre and Ilya, their focus will shift on the world map transition. And then it's like last year where we did some minor fixes for world maps. It's going to be minor fixes for city maps this year, and main focus is on world map development. And what does that mean? That means we're using the city map, what all of the things that we've learned last year for the city maps, like how do pathings work, how do roads work, how do brushes work. We take all those things and look at the way that we solve them in the world map editor, question ourselves, do we need to fix them? Do we need to change them up? And then address them. And then, of course, we will add missing features like the biomes. We already have a small working prototype of biomes internally. But we just said we're not going to do biomes while we should do city maps. So let's keep them and let's wait until we transition over. If you guys... If you tell me that we should prioritize this, like biomes, then I will definitely take that into account when we do the planning. I do know that when it comes to stability, the colorization heat maps that we use to create those world map height map colors, they are very memory heavy, and they cause a lot of things to break. So they might be our top priority to fix. But we will see. Just let me know. So Copper says already, yes, this is the one thing I'm waiting for. Okay, noted.
Cool. I mean, I think, yes, as you say, this is, well, what's coming up, I think that is going to cement in everybody. When you see what the city map editor is going to be doing, applying that to the world map editor, you're like, yes, everything else becomes secondary. Trust me. So shall we show them? Because I was blown away by literally when Till showed me these, he's like, oh, I like your reaction.
Okay.
Because my face dropped when I saw them. So
okay. So there you go. We're not jumping into demo right now because not all of it is part of the demo. Some things are a bit more future experimentations. But we can look at what is currently cooking in our secret lab where Andre and Ilya, what are they currently working on? So this actually is inspired by a map that someone else shared on. So we actually took a map that someone else shared on, I think on X, like Twitter. And we said, can we do the same map? So we're kind of proof testing our tools constantly to see if they are flexible enough to create whatever someone else can come up with. Because the biggest risk with doing your own stuff and testing your own stuff is that you just do something, say, yeah, it works, It's not breaking, but you're not actually creating something. And when you look, we're going to see it in my demo as well. When you look at something and you have a specific goal that you want to recreate, then the question is, can you actually recreate it? Now that I think about it, I should have also placed the original one. My bad. I'll post it on Discord later so that you have a comparison. So that's what we're doing on the sidelines, constantly testing, constantly updating. And as you can see, I think it looks amazing, like with the clouds, with the cloud shadows, with the lighting, the God rays, the color adjustments. There's a lot of love and detail in there. So now we're trying to kind of get the corner cases. And the next thing I want to show you is water. We're still unhappy, and this also relates to the world map stuff. We were still unhappy with those swirly swirl water backgrounds that we created at the beginning. They're nice. I still like them visually, but there should be more. And so we've been experimenting with different kind of filters that we can put to make water look more realistic. Or it's not the question about realism, because we don't want to have that weird mix between 3D rendered and then illustration. The challenge actually is to get it in a way that it is still emulated or simulated water, but in the looks of some hand-painted stuff. And I don't say that we're there yet fully, because that's why we're experimenting with it, but we're getting closer to it, and we will see in the demo how that feels and behaves, right? Okie doke. Next one is, can you guess it?
The city map?
Can you guess what feature we're experimenting with here?
Oh. Yes, absolutely. I can guess it. I think it looks stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Thank you. But what makes it look stunning?
The rays of light, also the dark, the lights on the walls. But the God rays, I think, are really strong here.
Yes, but that's just the shiny polish on the image. Come on, Discord. Look at the image and have a guess at what are we currently experimenting with.
It's not day for night.
Lighting, day and night. No, that's all in there already. You can already adjust all of that. Give you a hint. It looks like a desert town. What makes a desert a desert? Sand, obviously, but heights. There you go. Look at the terrain. Exactly. Sand dunes. So what we're currently experimenting with, I don't have a demo for this today, because it is very early. This is something that Ilya has started, I think, 2 weeks ago. I will have a demo in February. This is a terrain brush that lets you elevate, or what's the opposite of elevate? Develate? De-elevate? Depress. Okay. Yes. That lets you elevate or depress terrain. And we're not doing it. And the goal is to do it by soft shadows, so that you can create terrain elevation, just with adding a hint of shadow, which means that you don't have to use a paintbrush to do this manually, but you press raise or lower, and the lighting will do the same thing. So if you rotate the light, it will always behave correctly. So it is, and again, that's why we did the dark map as well, because here you can see much better how the light touches the terrain. And this works with the brushes and with the textures. So again, this is going to be a topic for the world map editor as well. However, the biggest challenge at the moment is, again, that we're getting into this uncanny valley of rendered 3D effect meets 2D artwork. And this is something that I want to see fixed first before we even release it. This might be something that runs in a dead end where we say this just looks shit. We can't make it work. I don't think so, but that's what Ilya is currently experimenting with. Right, and the last one, which we are going to see in the demo, is that one. We have been working on better ways to actually make those maps more versatile for us storytellers. Because if you remember, we had this outline mode thing in the world map editor. And we said, well, of course we want to, that's the whole idea behind the thing, is that we have the opportunity to create a color map of a city. But what if you want to have a handout for your players that's more like an old style map? And the approach of the multi-layered assets that we are producing internally is causing some problems in the long-term concept of how can we grow again our asset services. Because if the only way to create outline modes is to have assets that are separated on different layers, Guy, can you quickly move, or are you frozen? Oh no, you're just listening. I was sorry. It's first time Discord stage. I'm still a bit on the edge when it comes to the technology behind it. Just nod all the time, then I know that you're not frozen. So if we want to have more artists like Tom Cartos, who's doing amazing world and city map stuff as well, Devin Rue, who else? Rusty Maps. If we want all those artists in there as well, we can't force them to create all the assets that they have already done in layers. So instead we said, okay, let's try a different approach. Let's try something where we go on a global filter and mix and match this up with the parchment background, with the lighting and all that stuff that's happening there. And I'm very happy with the outcome. We're not, I would say we're 90% there. So the rest 10% is just visual tweaking and unifying this into a proper tool and not just a bunch of sliders. And there you go. I'm super. I've already used this map specifically for one of my games because I created this city map for one of my home games, and I wanted to have a handout for my players. So, still did some tweaking in Photoshop because we're not there yet. It's not material for my players yet. I'm a perfectionist there, but we will get there, and I'm super happy about it.
It looks really good, Till. I think it looks really, really good. I was blown away by it. And we're going to get to see that tonight, right? So yes. Let's get to see it tonight. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. I kind of expected that you say this, so I have already secretly launched DEIOS.
Let's get on with the demo. That's why we're here.
Let's get on with the demo. So how do we demo it? Let's look at an existing map. Let's look at the map that I did there. And this is the map. And again, I feel like it's incredible. you could actually run a chase scene more like a battle map style here on the map because of the love to detail that you can put on it if you take the time to actually do it. And this is not the best demo for water. We're going to look at water separately. I mean, I did apply the water filter here too, and I feel like it's probably still a bit too much. Let me get rid of the clouds. The cloud shadow is perfect to hide flaws. By the way, if you ever need something, put in some clouds, put them over the stuff. But for the sake of let's hide those things so we can look at the water. And there is the water shading. So if I turn that off, this is the regular stuff. This is how it was before. And if we zoom in really close, we can see it still has those swirly background textures. It does have, I did put a brush in there, so it has some darker water brushing, which we might actually delete for now. So this would be it, right? This is how you would get it. So let's see what happens if I turn on the water shading. And now I can, of course, ramp up intensity. Now it gets really 3D-ish. I'm not happy with that. This is a clash of things here. But if I turn it, like, that's what we're still tweaking. Turn it down a bit, increase or decrease the depth of the water, increase the tinting. It should do something. Oh, yeah, I probably need to switch it on. Let's do something weird so I can actually find my way around the right setting. Let's do some dark green tinting in there. Something like that. And now let's see how the depth is actually affecting it. We don't see a lot, don't we? I'll probably have to. I mean, you do see some tinting, but...
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, I can certainly see it. While a lot of folks are saying, will the battlemap editor assets be made to match the DEIOS style of art, or vice versa?
We will see. So we're not going to change the battlemap assets. Like, we're not going to work over all the existing battlemap assets to make them fit city maps, for example. But there is definitely going to be kind of a set where we say specific assets for the battle maps come of the same design and style as the city and the world maps. That's a very complicated question to answer, because one of the learnings that we had throughout the city map design was that you cannot do the same style for the different requirements. A city map, and when we look at this, a city map building is a lot, if you look close, it has a lot less detail than you might expect from it, right? But the reason for that is that you're barely ever going to look at a city map at this scale. A city map is at this scale, which means all the details that you put on the building are lost on a city map. However, the outline borders need to be much stronger so they can still be visible on a zoom out level. So the art style for a battle map asset is different than the art style of a city map asset. And then you have that kind of shift in perspective when you go to world map assets, where again a different requirement is met on the assets. So what we are currently working on is on a style guide that kind of unifies color palettes, stroke widths, line width, and general kind of aesthetics through all those things, but they will to some degree always differ because the requirements are simply different.
Another question from Copper Shield is, could the topographical brush that you are looking at with regards to the terrain, if you applied the suppression or the depression option to the river, wouldn't that create a depth in the river? And then your shading, your light cast is going to create the shadow anyway.
Yes, although currently it's limited to land masses. But that is actually an interesting idea. That is actually an interesting idea to say, you know, wait, we're taking that restriction away and put it everywhere, so you could actually depress or elevate something underwater, and that might be actually really cool for the second map that I'm going to show.
Yeah, making reefs, all those kinds of things. All right, lovely.
Yes.
Okay, so what are we looking at next?
So, this actually is the way that I did this map is available to you already, because I did this map over Christmas with the version 0.6.2 that was available to all of us. So the new fancy stuff is now the filter. And currently for us internally development, it is it's just a bunch of sliders where I can control the effects. But for you, it's going to be more or less, it's going to sit, it's not going to be on the map while you work with it. I don't think that makes any sense. Also, it's very performance heavy. But it is going to be part of the export option where you say export as a color map or export as the, we're still looking for a cool word for it, old school map. And what that toggle will do is what you can see here is it is actually increasing the filter intensity. I'm going to ramp it up to 80 now. And let's increase the threshold a bit. And from our perspective, as we look at it, it already looks good. The question is, in terms of threshold, is how much details or darkened areas get into this. And then again, how much do I take away throughout the intensity? And the parchment is currently just showing, like if I turn this fully on, then we can see that there is this kind of screen filling parchment behind it. So the way that this blends together then gives me the result. It's not optimal at the moment because at some point it's getting just plain white, which is great actually if you don't want a parchment, but now I have to play with intensity and threshold to get it back working. And as you can see, this is like balancing. I'm sitting with Andre and we're like, well, maybe we should change the way that I think we're using screen multiply on the parchment but now we need to adjust the threshold and threshold values that are between 0 and 100%. Where should they be on the whole scale? So that's what we're currently playing around with. This is how it would look on close up. And I think that's pretty cool, isn't it? It's a filter. It's actually one of the filters that we found that actually does what we want it to do. It does create a kind of on a very zoomed in level, it creates this interesting almost sketch art style. And now again, if I turn up the threshold, we can get more of that style. If I turn on the intensity, let's ramp it all up. There you go. Now it's almost completely multiplying all the details and all the grayscales into it. However, when you zoom out, it will it will get too much very soon. So that's another thing why it shouldn't sit on
Zoom level.
Zoom. It should sit on the export, because there you pick the region that you would like to have, and when you go to export, you can then adjust something like the intensity and the threshold for it to say, okay, this is exactly how I want this to look on the export.
And you'd want to be able to save those settings as well, because if you're exporting pieces here and there, you don't want to have to remember what your settings were when you were at this zoom or that zoom or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's wait, that's an interesting one. I actually never thought about it. We're not saving, like, we're saving the setting globally, but we might want to save it.
I think what you're going to have to do is lock the setting to the zoom. So you set your overall look, and then it maintains it regardless of what zoom level you're sitting at, perhaps. Anyway, I mean, this is all part of trialing and testing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Till, with regards to this, you guys are sitting, you're looking at these filters and things. Obviously, it's in a working state at the moment. We can see it working now. Will this be part of the next patch coming out?
Yes. So what this is in the cleanup phase now, where we say, okay, move it to export, get rid of all the sliders, or make a better kind of balancing on the sliders, so that we can probably unify it down to from 3 or 4 sliders down to 1 or 2 sliders, and move it to export. And once we have that, then we can say, okay, done. Now it's ready for feedback, and we'll hand it out. So this is definitely planned for the release in February, and will be available to you. Same with the water, which, by the way, reminds me that we actually wanted to look at water in more detail, because my river demo was not the best. Where was my water?
Down one. Yep.
Ha! Look at that. So this is how it looks. This is how water looks at the moment. If you still have your intensity slider on. So here you go, and here you can see more of those depth details that I was trying to show you in the river, which were just lost because the river was too small. So when I ramp up the intensity, this controls how much of the lighting affects the waves. And again, I'm sure that we will find more tweaking to it. It already, the problem is kind of the difference between those waves and those waves. For itself, it already looks very artistically drawn, because it is it's oversaturated in the way that the waves work. But we aren't fully.
Almost a scale thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a scale question. It's a scale question and an amount of wave question. And we'll fine tune and tweak it till we get there, so that those waves and those waves work together. And now tinting, again, this is just solid blue water. Tinting adds those little details beneath it. And now let's see what happens if I do lava.
Because you always need lava.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I can do lava. I don't think I can. I mean, it has this red tint now. Let me see.
Yeah, the blood wine sea.
This texture is called gray snow and is super red. Interesting. Okay. So as you can see, you already brush beneath the wave surface, which is cool. And Let's do some dark red there too. Oh, there you go. Oh, now we're in Diablo. It's the season of the blood.
Welcome to the hells.
Welcome to the hell.
Yes, the blood ocean. I mean, that's really fun to begin with anyway.
I just realized that we need shark fins.
And giant sea monsters and crashed wrecked ships and but you've got some wrecked ships already in the world map editor.
Yeah. So the thing with that is with the water, it's also planned to be in the release, in the update for February. But there is still a lot of tweaking potential in there, where I feel like we can still do stuff in there, like give you more flexibility on the darkness of the elements that are underwater, and make those waves look more artistically drawn than rendered. We're definitely going to hand it out, but hopefully, this might be one thing that we will repeatedly come at and improve as we move on.
Mm. Do we have a date for the February release of the patch?
No, not yet.
Do you guys have an idea? Yeah.
Reason for that is simply that here in Austria there is a school break week next week, where I will take my daughter to a skiing trip, and most of our team are taking at least a couple of days off. And when everyone gets back, which is then on the 12th of February, we will potentially need the week of the 12th or more, depending on where we are and what needs to be done to actually finish the patch. So it is going to be somewhere mid to end of February, but when exactly, I cannot say yet. But the second we know the date, we will definitely post it here on Discord.
Fantastic. Lovely. Well, I mean, moving forward, so at the end of February, we'll be collaborating and building maps.
Yes, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yes, exactly.
We didn't get the goal today, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
Exactly. So the goal for the future mapping it out is we're trying to do more like a fireside chat, where we come up with a map that we want to build together. That's not always a city map. That's not always a world map. And that's not always a battle map. We come up with something where we say, okay, let's do a battle map tonight. And we're building this map together, you and I, plus you Discord people, our dear community. And while we chat about development, progress. We will be using demo builds to do stuff that we cannot do probably in the real builds yet. But we want to keep this less of an front panel speech thing and more interactive. That's where we want to go to.
And please, please, please give us your feedback, whether you are watching on Discord now or whether you are watching this as a video later on YouTube, what your thoughts are in terms of using the Discord platform moving forward. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Do you prefer it on YouTube? Do you prefer it on Twitch? Let us know so that we can make the right decision. Exactly. It is about you guys being able to get access to see exactly what DungeonFog is doing. So we want to make sure that that is happening in a way that makes sense for you. So till folks can comment here, they can comment on the YouTube channel. Let us know what you are thinking, and we'll keep you posted. Social media will come out in February. Yeah.
And also let us know what you think about the format. Like I can see Damien asking for, could we still have a dev panel? So if you feel like this is something that you would be missing, give us a go at one or two mapping it outs, because there is going to be dev chat.
Yes,
we're going
it's not
to
being
talk
cut
about
out.
developing. It's not being cut out. It's not just mapping. It's we're drawing a map and we chat about development stuff.
Correct. And the map that's being drawn is using the stuff that's currently in development or that has just been developed as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just about showcasing.
It's still going to be time capsuled to 1 hour or 1.5 hours at max. So we're not spending 3 hours. It's here it's 8 p.m. in the evening. I'm looking forward to actually eat something and have at least a bit of an evening with my family. Same for Guy. So we're not going to spend hours doing maps. We're trying to do something in a 1.5 hour frame, where we actually do more interactively stuff and talk about development. Probably jump here and there into demos. If you're then still missing an upfront panel dev talk stuff, I think we can switch it up in mapping it out, probably where we say, okay, every quarter we do a dev talk, something like that. Like, just be open, post about your ideas, let us know, and I will take that into consideration, because I feel like it could need some new pep. And I would love to have some great ideas for this year, how we can make this interesting for you.
Lovely. In which case, then, I think that brings us to the end of tonight's show.
Exactly.
Till, is there anything you want to say?
You mean except from happy map making? No. Happy map making. Guys, I'm not sure how to end this. I'm there is a big red button and I'm very afraid of pushing it. Thank you guys. Have a great day, great evening, whatever it is. I'm going to push the red button now. Well, it gets a pop-up that says, hey, do you really want to?